Yo, I just want to go on record saying this now, right? You know, we always have these conversations about the GOAT, who's the GOAT, Mike, Kobe. I'll even let your boy LeBron get into that category. Best quarterbacks, especially men. But one of the most indecisive arguments I've ever heard, which I'm about to put to bed, is the greatest boxer, because that's more era-driven than I feel anything. See, there's no consistency. Mike had titles, but then somebody else will bring up Bill Russell, and it would fuck that whole argument up. But Bill Russell he didn't have as much merit in what he did because of his athletic ability. He was blessed with some gifts, but we're not gonna get too far into that. You know what I'm saying? But boxers, right? I'm gonna put this to bed now, man. I respect anybody who stood for, and would say Muhammad Ali is the greatest of all time. I mean, which comes in secondly in part based off of the fact that he named himself the greatest. That was his dink. That was his AKA. So I feel like that also has a part to play in his not repertoire, but in his legacy as the reason why people synonymize him with the greatest. That could be disputed because he's done a lot of great things. He stood for, at a time when people thought he was a coward for not fighting for his country, he stood for what made sense, and he knew that America was trying to make him into be. Let's just talk about the things outside of the ring first, right? Because I'm going to tell you why in the ring it don't even count. He stood for that. When he converted to the Nation of Islam, and Islam period, he also showed that, he had a different side to him, and not only that, but he fought and ran for so long, and he overcame a lot, man, after getting beat in certain fights, to come back and to just do it. The Larry Holmes thing, you call it what it was. Mike was old, but if we want to go based off of fighting records, okay, and if we want to go based off of entertainment and who drew to the sport, one thing you're not going to do is exclude Floyd Money Mayweather. Not saying that I think he is the greatest, because I feel like there's a lot that goes into that title. I feel like it's not just about one thing. It's about it's about the story, the legacy. It's about the fall from grace, and it's about how this person overcame adversity, because that's essentially, in the ring, these dudes are fighting the same demons that they fighting in the world. So you could equate the two. This is just not a sport for some people. For some people, they were literally fighting for their lives. I could even throw, what's the crybaby's name? Deontay Wilder in there. He was fighting for his daughter, man, who was diagnosed with a spinal disorder. You know what I'm saying? And he was in there fighting for her life. You understand? Like, fighting to get her the best treatment possible. Like, these guys are in there, they fighting demons when they're in that ring. So for you to not be able to add in what they do outside of the ring as a part of it, I think that would be foolish. Now, I'm not saying Floyd ain't have demons. I'm not saying Muhammad Ali ain't have demons. Okay? But these guys were talent driven. Muhammad Ali's had more qualms with the United States of America, and at a time too where it was kind of a given, during times of racial inequality and things of that nature. So I'm gonna go ahead and kind of write even some of that stuff off, and as a it kind of came with the territory. You feel me? However, Floyd's undefeated. Got somebody like Rocky Marciano's undefeated. When it comes to people like the Dempseys or like a LaMotta or somebody like, these guys had the stories, but they just didn't have the backing in the other categories, which I feel like is really a trifecta. It really ends up is your early career, your story and overcoming and how you overcame the adversity. And when I say early career, I also mean I'm a bunch career and fighting career as records, how much you drew to the sport and all of that. But the personality of a champion, which is subjective, but in my book, I feel like we can all see qualities that we can't name. Like, you can tell when you love somebody and you may not know how to define love. We all know that there is an alpha quality to these certain people that we're naming they have an obsession in what they do. They are completely insane about what it is they're doing. So that way we can really, identify like, oh, this guy is, he's obsessed. Everybody who was great in this world was obsessed. There is nobody who just became great and said, it's really not my favorite thing to do. No, these people were obsessed in their craft, okay? Some of them cut their own ear off, right? Some of them were terrible people, but still managed to capture the hearts and the minds of many when it comes to art, when it comes to entertainment, when it comes to sports, when it comes to comedy, okay? And when everybody brings up Dave Chappelle, it is not just how funny he is. And they call Dave the GOAT. It was what he left on the table. It always has to do with the backstory. So don't give me that shit about what happened outside the ring. Like, I like LeBron, but he's too safe. Like, what did LeBron overcome? What, the little lawsuit or the investigation when they fucking, he's a wholesome dude. What, the lawsuit with the Heat when they said that they set up the team and it was illegal? I mean, like, that's it, bro. LeBron is a wholesome dude, and I'm not saying that it's bad to be wholesome. I'm just saying that here in America, we love a good underdog, get beat up, get back up story, man. And, I think Deontay Wilder could have had that title too if he had done what he was supposed to do, against Tyson Fury. But even Tyson Fury, man, what a great story, But I also feel like Tyson Fury didn't have the resume. He didn't have that many fights. I mean, he fought the biggest names that were around, and he definitely was the linear champion, which I can appreciate. But compared to a Floyd Mayweather who fought the best every single time, and everybody wants to make the excuse, oh, well, he fought Canelo when he was too young. Well, he fought this person when he was too old. It ain't never going to be right. It's never going to be right for Floyd. But Floyd is definitely the biggest and best businessman. Floyd would be what I considered like the Magic Johnson of the game, to where he can't be, he's always gonna be top 3. You know what I'm saying? Like, whether you want to put him at top 1 or not, he has secured his spot at top 3, and he did it in a way where he made it on his own terms. Like, there wasn't nothing that you could ever say to him to that would deny that he earns that spot. We might be your 1, but he's always going to be your top 3, and you can't deny that. And I think that's what Floyd secured. However, when it comes to overcoming adversity, when it comes to being the most dominant in the ring, when it comes to all of what boxing encompasses and all of the things of what a good tragedy, comedy, action, mystery, crime, every genre of movie that you've seen, thriller, there is one boxer and one fighter who has done all of that, and he is not so much as overlooked. He is always been, I feel like since I've been around, a contender for the spot, but I think people have gone with the safe answer a lot of the time. And you know, and I know I keep you know, digressing and, you know, segueing into some other shit every time I get started, but when you look at it, man, Muhammad Ali's fight record was not crazy. I mean, if that's the case, you have to look at guys like, because it can't just be based off the fighting record. Boxing has told you that you can't base the greatest based off of a fighting record. Be based off of people's selections. Nobody's picking Rocky Marciano. You know what I'm saying? One of the who I think is probably one of the greatest top fighters ever, Sugar Ray Robinson. People always forget. Nigga fought like 126 something times, bro. This man had more fights than two people's lives combined. You know, that he's had 3 times as many fights as a Floyd Mayweather's career. And he was doing it for fucking pennies. So, and he was in the military. Like, when did you find time to be a boxer, bro? You know what I'm saying? And I don't feel like the law sustained Muhammad Ali's record. I feel like they amplified it because of, like I said, what he overcame. I feel like we need a Floyd, right? We need a Floyd just like they needed a Rocky Marciano, except in those days, fighting was a little bit different. I feel like just like everything else, whether it comes to evolution, fighters, sports, basketball, baseball, everything has evolved. No, obviously not. I don't think those guys back then could touch the guys now. In anything, really, when it comes to intelligence, technology, athletics. We have too much advanced technology when it comes to muscle development, new enhancements on strength training. Like, these guys are freaks of nature now. You know, nobody was shooting from 50 feet out back in the 80s. You know, Steph does the shit, pulls up, and it's gonna hit fucking 3 out of 5. That nobody was doing that. You know what I mean? So I hate when this argument comes about, but once again, I digress. The greatest boxer, or who will be looked at and viewed as the greatest boxer of all time, and why I'm going on record saying it, is without a doubt in my mind, without a shadow of a doubt in my mind, I'm about to say Muhammad Ali. Like I said, remember that greatest sticks in your mind, and the first person you think is Muhammad Ali. You know, you gotta appreciate that too. That's a very smart move. I'm gonna just start saying GOAT and putting GOAT on shit. You know what I'm saying? Or best of all, the boat, right? But it's Mike Tyson. Without a shadow of a doubt, is Mike Tyson. This is in all of combat sports. This is in all of anything that has to do with two people physically harming each other with their fists. I don't care if it's their feet, wrestling, you name it. When it comes to any type of contact combat sports, Mike Tyson should be hoisted on the throne. And my reasonings for that are more about what he displayed outside the ring and what he displayed than what he displayed inside the ring. Mike Tyson's whole life, he faced trauma, pain, anguish, as a lot of us do. But a lot of us don't turn into the baddest man on the planet, right? And let me tell you what else a lot of us don't do. A lot of us don't literally become egomaniacs and narcissists when that's not even our character. It's a character that we're playing for the world because the world has given us this title. But it comes off so authentic because of what we would have done inside the ring and outside the ring. And to be such on the extreme side of pain and punishment and danger to go to prison, be accused of rape, right? He was charged with rape. I say accused though. The story's a little iffy, right? Beat his wife, who was a money grubbing, cunt, for lack of better words, but that's between them. I mean, she ain't do shit to me, so but if she did, I mean, I ain't gonna lie, I'm not saying I would have punched her in the motherfucking face, but definitely would have dragged her by her hair and threw her ass outside the door. And to become all of those things and encompass all of those things, then to be robbed due to your lack of education, to be taken advantage of by the same guy who's been taking advantage of guys their whole life, to have all the people around you play into your demise after all the people around you enabled you, they yes manned you to death, and you built them up, to then face the biggest loss of your career, which really wasn't even a loss. You got robbed, right? So you were robbed in front of the world, and we all just had to watch it, suck it up, and say, damn, his reign is finished. To come back after you served jail time, lost your step, still competed at a high level, but we could see something was missing. To be berated with headbutts via Evander Holyfield, and to bite a man's ear off in the ring, to turn Muslim. I know I'm not doing this in chronological order, but to turn Muslim, to literally just berate men and women and anybody who stood in front of you, just a true fucking animal when it came to your etiquette and your manners, and this is in a negative connotation, but in a positive connotation based off of his ring awareness, his skill level, right? His skill level, his ability to pick apart his opponent simply by using fear as his major weapon for himself and for his opponent, to play the mind game before the match even starts, to be starting the mind game as he's walking out, to psych himself up into using his fear and manipulating it and turning it into pain, to strike any man and hit him so hard that knock him out of the ring, to just completely drop, guys that were damn near 20 to 30% larger than he was. Then to have it all come crashing down and elevate to a better person than he ever was. To be humbled, to be happy to lose it all, right? To be afraid to want to put back on that mask of the baddest man on the planet because of your fear of what it turns you into, knowing that was never really you, right? To look into the world's eyes and go from one extreme to another extreme, to go from the baddest man on the planet, Iron Mike Tyson, the Dynamite Kid, whatever you want to call him, to Mike Tyson, the philosopher, Mike Tyson, one of the most peaceful, humbled guys on earth. Then some people will put the argument, well, that's because he lost it all. Well, how come it didn't turn him back into that person once he got the money, if that was really who he was? Because Mike Tyson is very paid again. Very paid. That fight he did with Roy, he would have never had to do it. I mean, he's already got land, he's got resorts, he's got a lot of shit going on. And on some real shit, he probably has, if not more, but I know the value is more because it was 30 years ago, 30 plus years ago. But probably got more money than he had then. And he's been back in the ring. And it's still the most humble, peaceful, extremely humble guy. And very unapologetic, but very still so sorry for how he might have come across, or what he made people feel, or what he thought, or what his actions, made people feel or think of him. But he's unapologetic because he's so happy and elated that it's come to what it's come to now in his lifetime. Mike Tyson is a true American hero story. Once again, it is just laced and riddled with crime, passion, action, drama, mystery, adventure, comedy. Remember, I'm Jack Dempsey. I'm Sonny Liston. I'm from Nairclaw. No one can match me. Lennox is no conqueror. I'm the conqueror. I'm Alexander. He's no Alexander. Comedy. You know what? Yeah, I think you're a fucking asshole. Just straight comedy, bro. To a man, it's not a joke whatsoever. This man is a fucking American hero and should be put up higher, way on higher than a pedestal than any of you want to put him on based off of his past endeavors that you still can't let go, right? The whole world turned a blind eye when OJ murdered this woman and some pizza dude, but we just can't let whole world turn a blind eye when Michael Jackson was, not saying he did it because he wasn't accused of it. Neither was OJ for that matter, so I take that back. But, when he's accused of touching these little boys and children and girls, but we can't look away when it comes to Mike Tyson, though. Especially when we even hear, not saying that any rape is good. Every form of rape is bad. But I'm pretty sure that there's some that are worse than others, like children and, I don't know how 20 minutes of giving a girl head could be considered rape. But it seems like somebody won and somebody lost twice in that equation. But it's not for me to identify. But let's start putting Mike Tyson on the pedestal, man. Let's start giving him his just due. This man has helped so many people, just by living his life, and has so many memorable quotes that have inspired even me, in my story and my tragedy, my drama, my comedy. Not to just push me to keep going, but to remember that you too can change, Davon. You too can change, world. We don't all have to live by what society tells us we are. No matter how much it sticks, no matter how bad we may have destroyed our own name and legacy. We too can still overcome. And who is a better story? Who can be considered a better story then I want to call him Iron Mike, but I feel like he deserves a better name. I don't want to call him Passive Mike. I'm gonna think about that. We're gonna give Mike a new name, man. It should be Mike the GOAT. Mike the God, because he has truly ascended into a new plateau that I don't think any boxer has been. You cannot normally humble these men. These men are only humbled when they lose, and they are only humbled when they are a shell of themselves. Mike Tyson is still very much Mike Tyson. He may not be the bad guy that you like or that you hate, but he is more of himself now than he ever was. And the best ending to any great drama, tragedy, anything is when the bad guy dies and a new guy is reborn. Except that's usually two different people. You know, death is always overshadowed by the new birth of a child or the new generation. Mike was able to live two lives in one, and to give it away, and all he had to do was just live it. Not to mention that some of the most epic things happen in Mike Tyson fights. Vegas, biggest crowds, Tupac's murder, all of these different things that happen around this time. And I just feel like it's time, man. I feel like it's time to give Mike Tyson his roses. I feel like it's time for us to stop bullshitting and stop trying to carry this whole generational thing around. You know what we do. I get it, man. People are gonna have their picks based off of how they grew up. You know, some guys might think Arturo Gatti was the greatest fighter. That's cool, but when you think of the term greatest, and then I say fighter, there's people that come to your mind that you just can't ignore. And I just know that Arturo Gatti is just not the first one. That might be who you like. But it's the same way that when you think about great baseball players, people say Babe Ruth, and nobody's ever seen a Babe Ruth game. They just know it because it's always been there. Well, my hero, you could watch him. And he's not my hero as if he's my greatest hero of all time, but he's one of my heroes. But he didn't become my hero in the ring. He became my hero after the ring. Salute, Mike.